Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you are new to See Mini Mom, welcome to my kitchen. I just spent 30 minutes and I prepped for the freezer 5 meals for my family. And the best part, I only spent $30. So stay tuned. It has been super busy around here lately, and with baseball, swimming, gymnastics, and church activities taking over our evenings these days, I have figured out that I'm going to have to be more organized than ever in the kitchen, or else I'm going to be tempted to swing through the drive-thru or feed my kids cold cereal way too often. So I decided to do a little freezer meal prep today, and I challenged myself to stick to a budget of $30 and see how many dinners I could prepare for my family. The recipes that I am using are from Lazy Day Cooking Club. My friend Carrie runs that service along with her sister Christina. It is a subscription recipe service where they drop 20 new crockpot recipes into their members' dashboards every single month. But what I think sets their service apart from others is that these recipes are specifically designed for freezer meal prep and for the crock pot. So all of the recipes have instructions for what to prep for the freezer and then what to do on the day that you are throwing that in the crock pot so you can feed it to your family for dinner. Both Christina and Carrie are busy moms themselves, so they understand the value of our time, but they also know that we want to put, nutritious meals on the table quickly for our families. And in addition to getting access to all of those recipes, becoming a member of Lazy Day Cooking Club also gives you access to their private Facebook group. Christina and Carrie go live in that private group several times a week. They answer their subscribers' questions. They show meal preps. They talk about what they're making for their own families. They give tips and tricks about how to use leftovers. So they are very engaged with the members of the Lazy Day Cooking Club. If you are interested in checking out Lazy Day Cooking Club, I will leave a link in the description box below. And if you use the code Mindy50 at checkout, you will get 50% off your first month. I actually did a meal prep video featuring recipes from Lazy Day Cooking Club a couple months ago. I will leave it linked down below. But today I wanted to take it a step further and actually challenge myself to stay within a budget. So I picked what I thought were the most budget-friendly recipes, and I was able to get 5 meals prepped for the freezer that I can make for my family for dinner later on down the road by spending just $30. For this video, I shopped at Aldi, so I will show you what I purchased there. I will tell you how much I paid for it, and then I will show you how I prepped those ingredients into 5 different meals that I can feed my family in the coming weeks. Here is my Aldi haul, and believe it or not, I'm gonna get 5 meals out of this. So I have some chicken drumsticks here. They are $1.29 a pound. This is 3 pounds of drumsticks. I think there's 10 here that I counted. This is some chicken breast. This is a little over 4 pounds. It's priced at $1.89 a pound at my Aldi, and I am actually going to get 3 different preps out of this amount of chicken. I am going to use less meat than these recipes call for. That is one way to kind of cut a corner in the budget, and I usually cut back on meat anyway and kind of rev up the vegetables and the starches and stuff in my meals, so that's not anything new to us, but I will be using a little bit less than the meals call for, so I'm gonna get actually 3 meals out of all of this chicken. And then I have 1 pound of ground turkey. There is a recipe I am making that calls for ground beef, but ground turkey is a lot cheaper. It's actually about $1.50 cheaper per pound at my Aldi than the ground beef. I prefer the flavor of ground beef, but as far as the nutrients go, the macronutrient makeup of this 85-15 ground turkey is almost exactly the same as the 85-15 ground beef. It has the same amount of calories, fat, carbs. I mean, there's 0 because it's meat, and protein. This has just a little bit more cholesterol than the beef, which was surprising to me. From a nutrient standpoint, it's about the same. The flavor is going to be slightly different than beef, but since it's going to be a crock pot meal and have other things added to it, it's going to be just fine. I was excited to see frozen cheese tortellini at my Aldi. I don't always find this. They also have it at Walmart, but it's an even better price at Aldi. So this is a 19-ounce package. I have some canned tomatoes here, 1 can of diced tomatoes, a can of tomatoes and green chilies, which is Rotel around here, 3 cans of tomato sauce, and funny story, I actually included 3 cans in my price calculations when I was pricing this out, but I only picked up 2. So fortunately, I had a Walmart brand can in my pantry, but I did include 3 cans in my price. I just, for some reason, only put 2 in my cart. I guess my head was just somewhere else. 1 container of shredded Parmesan cheese. I prefer to buy it in a block form and shred it, but the block is so much more expensive than the 5 ounces of shredded, and I don't need a ton. So I just got 1 container of that, 1 8-ounce block of pepper jack, a package of egg noodles, a big package of rice. I'm actually not gonna need all of this rice. This is 3 pounds of rice. It was $1.89, I think, at my Aldi. So I'm gonna have lots of rice left over to use in other dishes and other meals down the road. 1 big thing of half and half. This large, I think this is, 32 ounces ounces of half and half at Aldi is the same price as 16 ounces at Walmart. And then I have 2 pounds of carrots and 1 pound of green beans. One of the recipes calls for frozen green beans, but the fresh green beans were a better deal, so it's gonna take me a little longer because I'm gonna have to trim these, and the frozen ones I would not have to do that, but that's okay. Sometimes when you are trying to save money, you've got to spend a little bit more time. My total before tax was $28.92, but there were a few things that I did not purchase. I did not purchase a lemon or an onion because I cannot purchase individuals of those. At Aldi, I have to buy big bags of them, and I already had a couple at home. And I also did not purchase celery because I had some at home that really needed to be used up. So if I were to add in the cost of those items that I already have on hand, I would probably be pretty close to just over, maybe just under my $30 threshold. These are some things that I already have on hand that I am using. These are just some basic spices and seasonings, and also some minced garlic, which is a staple in my house. I either have bulb garlic or I have minced garlic, but I'm also going to be using paprika, oregano, onion powder, olive oil. I have just enough for the recipe that I need it for. I have some Italian seasoning, some thyme, some salt and pepper, and then this is my homemade ranch seasoning. I make this myself. I will leave a link in the description box showing you guys how I make that if you are interested. Otherwise, you might need to also pick up a couple packets of ranch seasoning because one of the recipes calls for it. But these are things that I'm going to have ready so that I can throw them into the recipes as I'm prepping them. So when I am doing this kind of meal prep, there are a few shortcuts I take at the beginning that help me to prep these meals faster. And one of the tips that I wanted to share with you is that if you are using canned goods, to go ahead and open all the cans at the same time. Just start by opening up all of your cans and have them ready sitting on the counter so that they are easy to dump into the recipes as you go. And of course, you probably already know this, but prepping your vegetables and anything that needs to be chopped is always a good idea to do at the beginning too. I just do it all at the same time instead of having to stop and chop the onion for one recipe and then chop the carrots for another recipe. I just do everything all at once. So I trimmed my green beans and I also rinsed those. And then for my carrots, I peeled them, and I needed 2 different cuts of carrots. I needed some that were cut just like regular kind of chunky carrots, you know, that are gonna go at the bottom of one of the chicken recipes. And then I needed some that were diced up as well because I'm gonna make a chicken soup. So I just peeled the carrots and then I diced some of them, and then I cut the other ones into sticks as you see in the picture there. And then I'm also gonna chop my onion, peel and chop my onion. I'm gonna need that for a couple of recipes. And 1 onion was plenty for what I needed, so that came in really handy, just going ahead and getting all of those veggies chopped up. You see me doing the celery there as well, and then I have all of my vegetables and my lemon ready to go whenever I am ready to put those into the recipes. I also halved the chicken breast because they were really large, and I am going to spread this across 3 recipes, so I just thought that I would cut them all in half, which would be easier to use them in multiple recipes. The first recipe that I am prepping is an Italian lemon chicken, and I started with half a cup of olive oil, and then I added some oregano, some minced garlic, some salt and pepper, some onion powder, and also the juice from the lemons. And this basically creates a marinade, and then I'm going to pour that over the top of the green beans and 4 of my chicken breast halves, and then it will be ready to pop into the freezer. And on the day when I'm ready to cook this, I will just put all of that into the crock pot, and I will cook it on low for 5 to 6 hours or high for about 3 hours. This is meant to also be served with red potatoes, but my son does not care for potatoes, so I'm actually just going to serve this with white rice, which works well because I'm going to use that in other recipes as well. And sometimes using the same starch across multiple recipes is a money saver. So this one's ready to go in the freezer already. The next meal that I am prepping is a creamy tomato chicken tortellini. So I'm starting with 3 of my chicken breasts in my container, and then I'm going to add my can of diced tomatoes, 1 of my 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce, some Italian seasoning, minced garlic, and salt and pepper. And I will tell you right now, do not do what I did that you're gonna see here in just a minute. I made the mistake of adding the tortellini to the prep for the freezer, and I don't know what I was thinking because I've made plenty of pasta dishes in the crock pot, and I know that you add the pasta at the very end of the cooking cycle. But for some reason I was thinking, well, this is frozen, I'll just put it in there and it'll refreeze. But Basically, in a perfect world, I would stop with these ingredients that you were seeing right here. I would put the lid on it, I would pop it in the freezer, and then on cooking day, I would put all of this into the crock pot along with a cup of chicken broth, and later on, I would add some half and half with cornstarch and the tortellini at that point, like about 30 minutes before we are ready to eat, and I would sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on top of it to serve it. But for whatever reason, I decided I just lost my mind and I put the tortellini there. Fortunately, I can let this thaw a little bit when I'm going to cook it, and I'll just take the tortellini out before I put it in the crock pot so I can add it later. But word to the wise, you guys, be smarter than I was. The next recipe that I am prepping is an Italian chicken and rice soup. So I have 3 of my chicken breast halves there in the bowl, and I'm going to add my diced celery, diced carrots, and about half of my chopped onion. I will also add some minced garlic, some thyme, some Italian seasoning, and salt and pepper. And I'm gonna change this up just a little bit from the recipe. On the cooking day, I'm going to put everything that I'm prepping here into the crock pot along with about 3 to 4 cups of chicken broth. And I'm gonna cook it on low for about 6 hours. I will take the chicken out and shred it and put it back in. And then I will add about 3 cups of cooked white rice. And I will add about a cup of half and half and some Parmesan cheese to it. I just like to add, you know, half and half or cream to my chicken soups because I think it just makes them a little bit more rich. Next up, we have ranch drumstick dinner, and I'm starting with my chicken drumsticks in the bag there, and I'm going to add the carrot sticks that I chopped up earlier, 2 tablespoons of butter, some minced garlic, some paprika, salt and pepper, and of course ranch seasoning. I do make mine from scratch using powdered buttermilk. There's a video in the description box where I show how I do that, but of course you can use store-bought if you want, and I still use store-bought ranch seasoning in a pinch, but if you don't have any, you will need that for this recipe. When I'm ready to cook this, I will put it into the crock pot and cook it on low for about 5 to 6 hours, and then you can take the drumsticks out and put them on a foil-lined sheet and pop them under the broiler for a few minutes to kind of crisp them up a little bit. This is another recipe that called for red potatoes along with it, and you can cook the red potatoes in the crock pot with everything else, but we are going to have it with white rice like I subbed in the other recipe that called for red potatoes, because again, my son doesn't like potatoes, even French fries. I know, he's kind of odd, we're working on it. But white rice will do well. It was called for in some other recipes anyway, so that's how we're going to eat it. The last recipe I'm prepping from Lazy Day Cooking Club is a pepper jack beef and noodles, but I guess actually here it's going to be a pepper jack ground turkey and noodles because I'm using the ground turkey in this recipe in place of the beef. So I'm just browning that on the stove there, and then I moved it to my container. And yes, this is an old Blue Bunny ice cream container. I mean, these containers are made for the freezer anyway, so why not just, you know, wash them out and reuse them. And check out Ollie in the background there. She must have found some of the ground turkey crumbles that I left on the counter as I was transferring it from the pot to my freezer container. So to this, I am going to add some minced garlic, some salt and pepper, and then my can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, and both of my other 2 cans of tomato sauce. When I am ready to cook this, I will pull it out of the freezer and pop it into the crock pot and add some beef broth to it, I think about 3 cups, and I will cook it on low for 5 to 6 hours. And then I will add the egg noodles that you saw in my haul directly to the crock pot about 30 minutes before we're ready to eat it. And I will also stir in the pepper jack cheese, which I will shred beforehand. Ooh, I almost forgot the onion too, so I popped that in on top there before I put the lid on. And the things that you see here are things that I showed you in my little grocery haul at the beginning of the video, but you didn't see me using them in the meal preps for the freezer because they're things that are added on the day that I actually make the meals. So I will store these in the refrigerator or in the pantry if that's where they go, and I will add them according to the recipe directions on the day that I cook those recipes. I also wanted to let you guys know that I don't really buy broth like in cartons or cans anymore. I just buy broth base like you see here. This is just a chicken broth base and a beef broth base, and I will add this along with the appropriate amount of water just to make broth for the different recipes that I make that call for it. And yeah, that's it. Those are my 5 meals, and it was really easy. It came together really quickly. It only took me about 30 to 40 minutes or so to make all these meals. All right, you guys, I feel so good about having 5 meals prepped for my family in the freezer that in the coming days I can just throw into the crock pot along with a few other simple ingredients and have dinner ready for my family on those busy nights. Be sure to check out Lazy Day Cooking Club. I'll leave a link in the description box as I said, and don't forget to use the code Mindy50 at checkout for 50% off your first month. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be sure to check in with another video very soon. Bye.